You're listening to the Business and Life Conversations podcast with Angela Henderson, episode 130. Hey there, you're listening to the Business and Life Conversations podcast. My name is Angela Henderson, and on this show, we talk about improving your business, life, or both by having amazing and rich conversations with brilliant guests who will inspire you and who will give you tips and tricks to help you grow both in life and in business. Well, hey there, and welcome back to another awesome episode of the Business and Life Conversations podcast. I'm your host, Ange, from Angela Henderson Consulting, where I'm an international award-winning business consultant and coach who has helped thousands of amazing women business owners get all the pieces in place to have consistent 5-figure months and then on to 6- and 7-figure years without burning out in the process. At some point in business, you're probably going to need to create a sales page. And if so, the reality of it is sales pages are imperative for the launch to work. To increase your sales, you're going to spend time growing your audience, nurturing your audience. You're probably going to either run a webinar or a challenge. It could be live or it could be evergreen. But all roads will ultimately end up leading to a sales page at some stage in this journey for the customer. But I see every single week people neglecting their sales page, treating it like it doesn't matter. But I'm here to tell you it matters. It really matters. In today's episode, I'm bringing on the amazing guru for sales page conversion design, Melissa, to talk about 3 conversion design mistakes to avoid when designing your sales page. We're going to dive into, is there a difference between a sales page and a landing page? How important is good conversional copy on a sales page? How important is it to equally have good conversional design to complement the copy? She's also going to share with us her 3 conversional design mistakes to avoid when designing your sales page. And she's also going to talk about when should people, maybe like yourself, outsource the design and or copy to their sales page. And so much more in between. She's an absolute gem. But before we hop straight into this amazing episode, I'd like to remind you that this episode is sponsored by my mastermind, the Action Takers Mastermind for Women in Business. Applications are officially open to welcome 20 women to join me for my 12-month online and in-person experience designed to get your business to the next level, whatever that looks like for you. The Action Takers Mastermind helps business owners like you to get clarity on where to put focus, genuine information on what's possible, what works, and what's a waste of time, helpful feedback on your ideas, perspective on your skills and talents, introduction to new clients, networking. I mean, seriously, the access to the community of people who understand and care about you is next level. Not to mention, during the 12 months, you're going to get strategy sessions with me, emergency calls with me when you need things ASAP, hot seat calls each month to talk about your individual business and how we can move that forward, implementation and co-working sessions, monthly mindset coaching by the most amazing mindset coach ever, 12-month access to our private Facebook group, access to other back pocket mentors so that you're not just getting knowledge from me, but you're getting knowledge from experts like a Facebook ads expert, Pinterest expert, mindset expert, productivity mentor, etc. And a 2-day live event on the Gold Coast here in Australia. Sounding like my 12-month Action Takers Mastermind might be what you need to get your business to the next level, then head to angelahenderson.com.au, click on Mastermind on the menu board to apply for one of the 20 spots. Now, let's get into this amazing episode. Welcome to the show, Melissa.
Hello, welcome. Thank you so much for having me.
Dude, it is super, super excited to have you here today because we've only just recently met. You wouldn't think that we've only recently just met because we've been talking, pre-recording for the last almost 40 minutes nonstop. So I say it often and I will say it again, is that when you get connected with amazing people, it doesn't take much for those conversations and relationships just to form. It's such a beautiful, beautiful thing. And, I had you as one of the 50 speakers for the Women in Business Success Summit. And I knew I had to also bring you on the podcast because your wealth and knowledge around sales page, specifically the design part of it, I think is super important and something that so many entrepreneurs are missing. They work so hard, Melissa, to get their launch down, and they've been, on the runway. They've got people coming on their list for 90 days, and then they're doing the webinars or they're doing the challenges, and then they go to open cart, and then everyone has to land on that sales page. It's kind of like the hero of the story, but then it's like shit can go bad really, really quickly, and then people go, but why did the launch, what happened? Where was the disconnect? Yeah. So I'm really, really excited to have you today on speaking specifically about that, because I think it's going to be imperative that we look at those 3 mistakes to avoid when doing the killer sales page. But before we do that, I always
Yeah.
like to ask my audience a fun question so that the audience gets to know you
Okay.
a little bit more. So my question is I have, obviously we've now been following each other for a couple months now with the summit, and I noticed that you love the color red, but there's this one awesome photo of you too that also has these beautiful red roses. So my question to you is what shade of red do you like the most? And my second question that I'd like to ask you is, what is your all-time favorite flower?
Well, my all-time favorite flower is roses. When I got married, I had a white dress, obviously with red roses, and my bridesmaids wore red dresses with white roses. So I love
fun.
roses. I love roses, and I've actually done some work for some like a flower shop for a long time. And the rose photo inspiration came from like who someone's my dream to work with. So if you're listening, Mary Ellen, let's connect. But Mary Ellen Matthews, who does the SNL still photography that shows up between the shows, she's got some really awesome creative direction and concepting there. So I used kind of the roses as a prop to kind of just like kind of hide my face because I'm so behind the scenes of so many different like marketing campaigns and website designs and brand developments. So I just love the roses because they smell beautiful. And my favorite color of red would obviously be that same red. And I love the color red because, you know, it represents power and determination. But I think we can all relate to those movies like The Devil Wears Prada, or I just watched a really dorky one called The Confessions of a Shopaholic, where like the young girl wants to be a journalist. She wants, you know, she doesn't, I'd never moved to New York City, but, you know, she goes there in hopes of that. So I like to define like my design style is semi-editorial, but like very down to earth. And like when there's red, your eye automatically is drawn there. And I use red for a lot of my buttons and for a lot of the places I want people to take in action. Like at the top of my website, I don't know anyone else that has this. I have a red button that says send Melissa a DM, and it sends you to Instagram, which is where I spend most of my time. Mm-hmm. So I'm very strategic and I'm very like thoughtful around the way that I'm using it. Obviously, red also can represent like blood. So I'm very careful for it. So it matches the roses. You know what I mean? I don't even like blood. If I see it, I might get sick. So I'm very like careful with like the fonts I'm pairing with it and how it looks. The font inspiration actually found from Rachel Zoe's website. And so, red's my favorite color. The red rose color would be my favorite.
It would be, well, yay, fun, because I was looking, I was like, what is my fun question going to be? And I was like, oh, the roses, they keep popping up. And I was like, oh, red. I said, so we'll weave them together. So roses are your favorite flower. Red is your favorite color. And we're probably going to talk a little bit more about the importance of different colors on sales pages. Maybe, maybe not. You know, it depends on how much we go in. But again, there are important aspects that need to happen, especially around those call to action buttons, which for those of you out there might be going, oh, you've already lost me. Stick with us. I promise. We've got a lot to talk about, and this is going to help to educate you about your sales page. But before we even hop into the sales page stuff, can you share with the audience a little bit about your business journey? Where did you start and where are you now?
Oh my goodness. Yes. I started my business January 2011 because I couldn't find a part-time job that had flexible hours in the design world. Mm-hmm. And so I started networking and started working for $20 an hour for anyone who would pay me, designing logos and business cards and social media consulting and pretty much anything. Uh-huh. And slowly but surely I did that through all in-person networking. This was when social media was kind of on the rise, but not like, it wasn't super like mainstream yet. Maybe it was. Mm-hmm. And then I started to work with local clients that, you know, gave me consistent work and I just charged them by the hour. 2012-ish, 2013, I started buying online courses from all the, you know, most people that, you know, were famous at that time, like Amy Porterfield, Marie Forleo, Rachel Luna, Elizabeth D'Alto. And I was really just fascinated with how they were marketing their services. And in November 2013, to make a long story short, I ended up becoming friends with someone on Facebook through a program I did through Amy Porterfield. And that person posted in November 2013 that he needed a graphic designer. So I like raised my hand. There were 2 available gigs. One of them was for product design for someone who was launching a skincare product line. And then the other one was for a sales page. And I happened to get the one with the sales page. I didn't get the other one, but the sales page, little did I know, was for Amy Porterfield. And
wow,
so from there, I mean, and I had known who Amy Porterfield was because I had taken one of her programs earlier that year and I had bought B School and I went to California to like a mastermind, you know, because like that was the thing everyone was doing. And so from, that was like my first solo trip, ever to California, first solo trip, first time ever leaving my children at the time, who were like, I don't know, 6 and 10 or 11 or something like that. And from there, I ended up connecting with James Wedmore, who I had met at that mastermind. And I was on a hot seat call for his membership site. And my problem at the time was, okay, I'm working with all these local clients, but now I'm doing the sales page thing and I'm really good at it. Like, what should I do? Because like my clients were nice and they paid me on time. And I was never concerned about making a huge amount of money. I didn't know what like profit and revenue. I mean, I knew what it was, but I didn't really care about it as long as I just had. So, my question was like, what do I do? And so he was like, well, I would love to hire you. So from there, I ended up working with him for, 3 years. As a sales page designer, launch manager. I hired a team. I helped create systems. Like I pretty much did everything in the business, and I stopped working with all the clients. But after while I was working with him, when that first initial relationship came on, he then referred me to like everyone in his Rolodex. So like I did the first 90-day year sales page. I did, multiple pages for Amy at that time, and like lots of different people. And then I had my first $5,000 month. And then fast forward to today, I am still doing sales pages, but on a very limited basis. I'm not managing launches anymore, but I'm doing a lot of consulting and strategy for my clients who want to be like a VIP day or something like that. And I've done some, group programs and mentorships for designers. And I've got a program I also sell called Conversion Design School, where I teach the foundational elements of design and conversion design, and actually how it relates to a launch, because there's a lot you need to look at from the beginning, when you first get that subscriber, when you first even, encourage that subscriber to become a subscriber, to when they become your customer and they onboard and following through with the whole experience. So I spend a lot of time doing that kind of consulting in my own business for my clients and also for myself. So that's where I'm at today. And
what a beautiful journey though. Again, the importance though is, I want to just emphasize this, is about you chose to invest in yourself though too, Melissa. You chose to back yourself. You chose to, to buy the programs. You then got connected with the right people. You chose to take the leap of faith in regards to getting on that plane and leaving your children. I mean, it's a very tough gig, as a mom when you're leaving those kids for the first time, but you chose to put yourself out there. And because of that, again, I'm a huge believer, and I say it multiple times on this podcast, that your network equals your net worth. And you, because of the fact that you took that risk and then you connected with James and he then connected you, because when you pay to work with someone, I always, before I ever sign with any person, I spend anywhere between $40,000 to $60,000 a year on professional development. I go, A, do I need what this person is offering? And B, who are they connected to? Because I want to be able to get into their ecosystem also, not from a place of like douchebag. All right. That's not what I'm saying. I genuinely want to build relationships with people and get to know people who are on the same vibe as me. But the thing is like, I pay to get into people's ecosystems genuinely. And that's what I say to people too, is when you work with me as a business consultant in my mastermind or one-to-one, is you're not just paying for my years of strategy, you're paying for who I know. Because when I connect you to those people, you will grow. But also like, for example, if I had a client whose sales page was horrible, their design was horrible, I'd say, okay, great, you need to speak with Melissa. Because here's the thing is they can go, I know there's a problem. Then they're going to go into Facebook groups and try to find someone that thinks they know the problem. Then they got to interview these people, and then they end up hiring the wrong person anyways. So like when you hire me, also you're hiring me to help reduce your time and efficiency and connect you with the right people who've got runs on the board. And so often I think people miss that part of, do you know what I mean, when they're looking at working with someone.
Yeah. And I'll just be very clear that like, I didn't go to the mastermind thinking I was going to get work from James Wedmore. I knew he would be there, but I wanted to learn YouTube. So I wasn't that forward thinking back in the day. I was just really excited to help people, and people kept coming back to me for more sales page work. And that's been the magical thing about having that quote unquote signature service. I didn't even knew what a signature service was, but I was providing such a great experience because I learned that I had a project management brain, that I learned that that was a talent, and I didn't know. I thought that, everyone wants to spend their life on Friday night. They don't. I thought it was weird, but whatever. And so I was always like, okay, this person needed 4 sales pages in 2 years. This other person needed a sales page, a membership site. Then they needed services consulting. Then this other, so people kept coming back to me because not only were the designs I was giving them making them major money, but they were like, it's really crazy because I just reflected back on this. Like I hired Lacey Boggs in 2016 to polish up my sales page copy for the signature sales page service. And so like the literal thing that I'm promising, which is like the expansion of teams, the changing of the customer's lives, your sales goes going up, literally has had a ripple effect on in more ways than I can count. I've even met people at events who have bought a course from a sales page design that I've done I did 5 years ago and they remember it. So, I think that there's a lot to say, when it comes to like providing just a good experience with people and doing what you say you're going to do when you actually, doing what you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it. There's a lot to say for that because there's people unfortunately out there that don't do it.
I mean, listen, I just had the prime experience at time of recording yesterday where I hired this particular person to do this thing in my business. And I thought this person was doing the right thing over the last 18 months, AKA accounting. And then I found out that it wasn't. So now I've brought these new accountants on board and now it's a hot mess, right? So we now have to go back and amend different quarters because things didn't marry up. I mean, AKA the PayPal US sales weren't connected. So now all the US sales weren't connected to the financial reports, Melissa. So things like that, like, again, I do think there has something to be said that when you hire someone to execute what they need, I think is missing in today's world. Because again, you don't know what you don't know. So you've got faith that these people who say that that's what they do are doing their things. Now, don't get me wrong. It's still my responsibility to have understanding. And that's why my hunch kept saying, dig deeper, ask a little more. And that's why I was like, something didn't feel right. But it's still our responsibility. But it doesn't mean that there aren't people that aren't taking money and not doing what they say. But also, there's people who do the right thing, but they don't. And this is where, to me, I talk often about human-to-human marketing, the experience and interaction that one faces with a particular brand. And so even though they do what they say they're going to do, it doesn't mean that you experience and have an interaction with them. They take their money, they deliver, and they're gone. But to me, it's so much harder to obtain your first client from a cost perspective than it is to get someone to come back, right, to you. And so, I mean, last night's another example that a lot of people have been saying, Ange, when are you going to start your networking stuff again? And I was like, I don't know. There's not many days left in this year. And I was able to pull off a day. And within 8 hours of me posting that, 60% of those tickets are gone for this intimate night that we'll have in Brisbane on December the 4th. But those majority of those 60% of people, I'd have to look at the data, but I reckon 40% of those people are returning because they've had some touch point with me already.
Yeah.
And so again, you don't have to then want to work harder, right? But that customer experience, I believe, is so important, but yet so missing. All right. I know we could talk about that probably in a whole nother podcast episode, Melissa, because it's something super important. And I think in the busy world we're in and where people are treating people like transactions, it's lacking. But let's get back to the podcast for today, which is we're going to talk about the 3 conversion design mistakes to avoid when designing your sales page. So let's start because some listeners out there are going to get this. But so the first kind of 2 questions, I just want to make sure everyone's on the same playing field. So my first question to you is can you just simply define what is a sales page?
Yeah. So if you've ever watched an infomercial, I like to compare sales pages to infomercials. I watched the jewelry ones all the time with my mom when I was a kid. So basically it is a long form web page, or it can be a short form web page, where the primary goal is to get someone to buy something. And so it's not, the goal, it's usually got one thing in mind, which is to get the conversion. And I think that when people need a sales page, this is my take on it, and this is what I tell all my clients and all my students and members of my programs, is that it's a good time to make a sales page when you have an offer that's already proven and it's already sold, or you already have an established audience who is excited to buy literally anything that you have for sale. So a lot of people make the mistake is that they create an offer and they don't know if it's proven. They don't know if people are going to get results, or maybe they get like a couple students, but those students then don't follow through on the program. So then they don't have any case studies. They can't say, okay, this person went from, point A to point B. They don't have those types of stories. So I think it's really important to make sure you have a proven offer, and to make sure that, like, when you're making your sales page, that the intention is to make a sale, not to just be sleazy. It's there to kind of help people make the decision as to whether or not, they should buy your offer.
And again, God forbid people sell, Melissa. Do you know what I mean? The word sales page can make people want to vomit just with that, because we've used the word sales. I mean, we aren't doing business, for most of us, for shits and giggles out there, people. All right. So there's got to have intent, that you just don't want to go all this work and put together a beautiful sales page and not actually sell the client what they potentially need to help them in their transformation.
Yes. And I think that there's a big, a lot of times people will say, I hate long form sales pages. I don't read them, but they work. You know what I mean? So I don't think that there's like a right or wrong length for your sales page. I've worked on sales pages that are 1,200 words. I've worked on sales pages that are 10,000 words. It doesn't matter. What really matters the most on your sales page is the content clear? Do people really understand what they're going to buy? What's the refund policy? So many people miss this. Like, someone will buy something and the refund policy wasn't clear, and then they're just not sure about what they bought, and then maybe they just bought in the heat of the moment, and then they try to get a refund, and then there's like no refund. So it's just not made abundantly clear. So
for you, is you believe that most people would need a sales page when they've already got the proven product. Would you then suggest that people who don't have a proven product yet, they just like, how would they sell it then?
I think so. I think that there's two folds to that. So I think that if you are newer to business and like your audience isn't very big yet, or you haven't sold a ton of things via a launch or like an evergreen funnel before, I wouldn't necessarily say that it's time to make a sales page. Yeah. But if you already have an established audience and you're creating something new, like I had one client who had sold a ton of things before, and he had hit like, multiple 7 figures. And he had a new product, and like we broke like the high record sales, his high sales goal of like 12 hours within opening the cart. So I think that if you have an established audience, it's time. And if you have an established offer, it's time. If you don't have those things, I'm not saying you can't build a sales page. I'm saying you can sell it on a sales call. You could sell it on a webinar. You can use a PDF. Like when I sold my first mastermind spot, like again, I'm not someone who spent the first 7 years of my business building an email list, because I was working with people who wouldn't sign up for my email list. They needed someone to sign up to provide a done for you service. And that's a different audience than the people who bought my list. I had 30 people on my email list. I did a webinar. 30 people had signed up for that webinar with Facebook ads. And I had a PDF and slides that explained what happened. The person had to apply to join the mastermind. And I got my first sale without sales page. And I'm known for making sales pages. So there's a ton of different ways to sell something. I think the thing we get with the sales page is we get a tool that can help make the sales process easier. It can help us avoid sales calls if we don't want that to be a part of the checkout process. And it just can, again, be a place where people can go to get all of their questions answered.
And that's what I like about it, is that you've shown people that there's an ability that you can sell in more than one way. And that's something that, again, I think is something that people struggle with when they're first starting business. Well, such and such guru said I need a sales page. Well, again, even with my own clients, there's a time and place for sales pages. I totally agree. If you've got time to even design one, right? Because sometimes, I don't know what your thoughts are, Melissa, I can see sales pages where I'm like, actually, this is more of a detriment than it is helping you, right? And that's when I'm like, a webinar could have been better. Getting on a call could have been better. So I wanted to say thank you for talking about that, because there's no one cookie cutter way. And that's the beauty about, you have to do what works best for you. Like I love doing 3-day challenges. Other people are like, I only love doing webinars. Again, test what works for you, and then we'll figure it out. Now, can I just ask you though, just so again, everyone's on the same page, what is the difference between a sales page and a landing page? Because I just want to make sure that people understand the difference.
Yeah. So in premise, like I like to give a lot of credit to these two terms and like what they are to Ollie Gardner, who is the founder of unbounce.com. A landing page can also be called a sales page, but a landing page has the same goal, and that goal is to get the conversion. But on a landing page, the goal could be, it's just to get the conversion. So That's to get someone to take action. That actual action could be someone booking a call. That could be, entering their info for a contest. That could be signing up to get, your free video masterclass. That could be signing up for text alerts. It could be, filling out an application to join someone's program. So a sales page can also be called or referred to as a landing page, but the landing page typically is there to get an opt-in versus just like kind of informing someone. And that's the difference between your website. So the sales page is primarily there just to get the sale. And then the landing page, which again, you can also refer to your sales page as a landing page. The goal is to just kind of inform people as to what it is that's going to happen when they're going to work with you or, opt in.
No, fantastic. Because again, it's just something that I know often I hear of people, well, do I need this or do I need this? And again, it's like, well, what's the intent behind it? Right. And then it's like, we need to kind of work backwards from there. Now, a sales page, there's a lot of meaty components that come up collectively with a sales page. And obviously and some of these points would be quite integral points, but I wanted to talk about though is when people come to you, they're like, Melissa, I've got good copy, or I've got my copy ready, or etc. How important is it to have good conversional copy for a sales page?
It's integrally, and it's so important that I'm different than 95% of the other designers out there. And the fact that I won't work on a sales page unless I either personally know of the copywriter or I know the copywriter, or I can see the copy myself. And the reason it's important is because, like, for example, I did a sales page for someone who sells a manifestation course. And she's done, I met her through B School in 2013. We were working on a sales page. She had hired a copywriter prior to me coming into the project. And literally the night before we were going to go to production to get the sales page developed, which was already on a tight timeline because she kind of came to me last minute. I had to have a come to Jesus call with her because the offer wasn't clear. I knew what she did, but looking at the page and the way that the offer was displayed and explained, it just was not clear. And so we kind of had there was a small, meltdown, but she knew that I was right. And had I not told her that, I couldn't in good conscience produce the rest of the page. So, we adapted, we got it done, but it to me is so important that I would rather have you just use a simple text layout on your whole entire sales page, maybe add some different colored backgrounds or just a couple pictures here and there to break it up, and keep your design so simple that people will read your copy, because we all have different personality types. We all take in information differently. And if you're someone like me who really needs to know the details and really needs to know the schedule so that I can make a plan, I get security in that. My 6-year-old nephew is just like me. And he's like, okay, you're coming over on this day at 3 p.m., not 4 p.m., Auntie, this at 3 p.m. You got to come over at 3 p.m. People, need that security. So I think that the conversion copy aspect of it is I don't think it's more important, but I think it's just as important as the design itself, because the design is what displays the work. You know what I mean?
And that was going to be my next question is how important is it to equally have good conversional design to complement the conversional copy?
It's just as important, because it's if you have, okay copy in a pretty page, it's not going to work together in a way that will help guide the user towards the bottom of the page, or more importantly, which is what we want them to do, towards that buy button. Things will be confusing. Things will be clear. We are all distracted enough. We don't need to be distracted by bad copy. So I think that there's a real art, and if you look at a typical agency, I think that this is what people miss too. I just connected with the creative director who was in charge of the McDonald's rebrand, the global rebrand of all the restaurants. They did a custom font and everything. And, there were 30 people listed in the credits of the work that they did. So most of the time when you have a marketing agency who's going to come, and work on these campaigns, the copywriters and the designers, they're all the stuff is being worked on together, or there is a creative director who is there kind of overseeing the entire project. That's the approach I take to my projects. I've never worked for an agency, but it's just as important for them to, read the copy as it is for the copy to flow. You don't want it to be really cluttery. You don't want it to be really busy. You don't want to use, like, let's say, white text on your whole entire page, because maybe someone who has some vision problems wouldn't be able to read it. You know what I mean? So to me, I think it's really important. And if you're not able to do a sales page, I'd rather you do a simple Google Doc with maybe some, styled fonts and use that versus and turn it into a PDF.
Yep. Again, always things that you can do to be flexible. So let's talk about the 3 most common conversional design mistakes to avoid when designing a sales page. Hit me up. What are they?
Yeah, absolutely. And so the first one that I see often, and people are kind of like blown away when I share this tip with them, is that they have either too much navigation in the hero section, which the hero section is just the top part of your sales page that's above the fold on a desktop computer, or they have the wrong kind of navigation on their sales page. So let's say, you've got, on your website, you've got a home page, an about page, and a work with me page. When I click on that work with me page, I shouldn't see the other page. There should not be links to the other pages on your website. The same header and footer shouldn't be there. Because I just went to someone's footer and, it was very clear as to who they helped, how you could hire them, or join one of their courses, how you could work with their agency, what the different services were. And that was fine on their homepage. On the sales page, we don't want to link to your YouTube channel. We don't want to link to your about page. We don't want to link to your press page. Instead, you can use press logos. You can have an about you section on the page. We want to keep people on the page so we can scroll. And the only navigation you should actually include on your sales page is links to things that are in the page. Those are called anchor links. So if I have an enroll now link, that can scroll to the pricing graphics or the checkout section of your sales page. It shouldn't go to a different page unless it's an external checkout page. We want to keep people on the page, and we want to keep navigational items on the page that will help make it easier for that person to make the decision. For example, on a course page, you could have, here's what you're going to learn. Here's when it starts. Here's the FAQ. Here's the case studies. Here's the enroll now. There's 5. You could do the same thing for an event, like listing the schedule, the speakers, what the outcome is, who it's for, buy now. You could have very specific sections that people need to know. Let's say travel opens back up again, because we're recording this during COVID. Well, if I'm going to go to an event, I need to know what time on Friday the event starts to know if I can either fly in early Friday morning or I need to fly in on Thursday. Those are really important details. So it's important to make sure that the navigation on your sales page is encouraging people to get the yes when it comes to the sale.
Well, this is so refreshing. I'm just sitting there going, Oof, okay, this is good. This is what's on our sales pages. So I'm always grateful when that's working well for us. But the other thing is another similar thing, and I'm going to divert really quickly, is on people's websites. All right. This little tip that I also just I feel I need to share is people have worked so damn hard to get to your ecosystem. So again, similar sales page. They've worked hard, whether or not that was you had to produce a webinar and you got them to the sales page, whether or not you're running ads and it's costing you to get people there, whatever it is, you've worked your ass off to get to the sales page. And I say it's very similar when you work your ass off just to get people to your website. And then there's all these distractions and whistles. And the number one thing that pisses me off, Melissa, is at the end of a beautiful website, they've got all their pretty Instagram feed on the bottom of their website. And then what happens is people then click because those pictures are enticing, right? They're a little bit more probably funner. Then what happens is then people click to the Instagram, and then you get to the Instagram page, and then you have intent to go to what was fun for them. But then, now you've got 3 little red messages that are showing up. You've got 84 notifications. So even though they had intent to go to your Instagram page, they've now been sucked into the world of Instagram, which is owned by Facebook. And Facebook and Instagram really don't care about us. So I'm like, on a website, don't take people to Instagram, because they are going to not be there for you, and they're going to get lost about what they were doing on your website.
Yeah.
And so again, it's very similar. So thank you for saying that. So that's very fun. Mistake number one to avoid is to, not have the menu bar or the footer stuff on the bottom, and to make sure that everything is contained and answered within that, page.
Yeah. Yeah. And I just want to say that you should have legal links on your footer. So you should have a privacy policy. You should have a terms and conditions link. And these are different. Like the privacy policy, I believe, can be the same as your website, but your terms and conditions for your programs and your offers are going to be different. And I when I say that, I mean like a done for you, not a done for you service, but this would apply more to like a course or a mastermind or a group coaching program. You should also have an earnings disclaimer there as well. And if you have a course that you are selling, like let's say you're selling a tiny offer or something where you've had more than like 100 students, I think it's very user friendly to include a member login link on that page, because how many times have you joined someone's course and then you run across their Facebook ad and you click it, then you see the sales page. You're like, oh, I want to go take that course, but you can't find the member login email anywhere.
Yeah.
Right. So I think it's good to keep the member login.
Ooh, fun fact. I like that one.
Yeah.
And mistake number two to avoid?
Mistake number two to avoid is not focusing more of your time and energy and on like the goal and the strategy of the hero section. So the navigation is in the hero section. It's just the top above the bold design in your page. So people may not have a button there. And I don't have a button on, I think, any of my hero sections for my own personal sales pages, but that's because I launch very differently than the clients I work with. Or like they have a headline that's not, clear, or it's like the hero section doesn't paint the picture for what the end result's going to be. And the design isn't complementing it. And they don't focus enough intention on that. But that's the first thing people are going to see. Like there's all these different studies. I think that the latest one is Stanford says you have 8 seconds to get people.
Yes.
So like when I come to a sales page, and again, this is my strategy. There are a lot of experts out there that may say this differently, but I've done a lot of sales pages for a lot of people who have made a lot of money. So I'm saying this from experience, not just because I think I know it all. I want to know what the end result's going to be. I don't want to focus on the negative aspects of my problem or the struggle I'm facing right away. I want to be inspired because we all need more positivity in our life. So let's say you're going to sell a Facebook ads course. You could say something like, scale your business in 90 days with my DIY Facebook ads course. Or you could say, are you tired of giving all your money to Mark Zuckerberg? Like, I don't know what the outcome is there. Yeah, I'm tired, but, or maybe I'm not tired. Like, I actually know Facebook ads pretty well in my business, so that wouldn't apply to me. But if I knew that, within 90 days, I would have a really good understanding of Facebook ads, that to me gives me a time frame. It gives me, an outcome of scaling my business or being able to put my course on autopilot or whatever it is. So I think getting super specific, and maybe even, I also like in the hero section to include some kind of a brand identity. So we could do, I'm not technically a branding expert, but I know a lot about branding because we brand a lot of the sales pages we design. And people want to know, especially if you're a personal brand, who they're buying from. So I want to see your logo. I want to see your photo. I want to see some type of element of your brand, maybe your fonts, maybe your colors. And you can completely go off brand for your fonts. Like I've done sales pages and we've gone completely off brand. One of my clients held an event in the same room where the Oscars are held. So we were very glamorous. Another event she held was in Las Vegas. So, that was a lot more flashy. But I think that people want to know and they want to see your face. So get some kind of a sales video or an image or a logo or something just so that people know who they're buying from.
Yep. Because again, it goes back to that old saying, the know, like, trust factor, right? Is that correct me if I'm wrong, but like when I go to someone who's got a really cool sales page, even if it doesn't have their face, but I've been following them on Instagram or I've been following them, you get to know people's colors. Like again, I clearly was able to identify your colors and you, right? So I would suspect that even if you didn't, and you may or may not, I don't know, but let's just say you did. So I go to your sales page, there might not be a picture of you, but I will almost feel like I'm home. Like I already know that person a little bit. Even I don't necessarily need your logo at the top because you've already ingrained other stuff in my brain because I followed you in other avenues, but it's still consistent.
Yeah, and we also have to keep in mind that when people are visiting a sales page, most of the time the traffic to a sales page is not cold. they've had some kind of interaction with you, whether that be via a free experience, whether that be, via a webinar, that could be, they're on your email list, or they follow you on Instagram, they saw your ad, whatever. People already are kind of familiar with you. And one story that's a really great example is Kimra Luna. So if you don't know who Kimra Luna is, she's someone who went from literally, this is on her sales page, a digital nobody to like she had this overnight success. She had a program that she sold called Be True, Brand You. And in May of 2004, between the May and November 2014, she had done 2 different launches, and she had earned $100K combined from both of those launches.
So cool.
She was doing all kinds of webinars. And this was before I worked with her. I met her at a mastermind, actually at James Lord's office that I planned at the time when I was working with him. And she, was doing webinars on Facebook ads and PicMonkey and just social media and tech training and all these different things. And she used this one image of her where, she had the side of her head shaved. I believe her hair was blue or pink. I don't remember, but she had these really cool Post-it notes on the wall, this really cute black tank top on. And she had just had a photo shoot done, and she wanted to use her new photos in the hero section. And I said, no, let's please use this photo, because you've used it on every single opt-in page that you've had for every single graphic that you've done for all of these free trainings you've had. Let's keep some, familiar, let's keep something there that's consistent and that people will recognize. I think because by the time we launched, her hair was short and blue.
Right.
But she literally went from $100,000 from 2 combined launches to $750,000 or $780,000 from her next launch. Now, people still, I've also met people who still remember that sales page. That was 2015. I've met people at events, and I don't go to a ton of events, who I took Kimra's program and, this year. And I was I did the sales page. They're shut up. And they get stopped in their tracks. And so that's a great example I like to share, because it's, when you're seeing that familiarness, I can't say the right word here.
Familiarity.
When people are familiar with you. Yeah. Familiarity. I can never say it right. But when people are familiar and comfortable with you, it's going to help them lead to more sales. Now, again, Kimra was doing lots of other things. It wasn't just the sales page that helped her buy. But people say the sales page is one of the reasons I bought that quote,
Yep. And again,
she was different.
And it's okay to be different. It doesn't
out there. Yeah.
I mean, I think in today's world, you have to have some sort of disruption, right? I know Molly Pittman did a beautiful, for those that don't know Molly, she's really big into, Facebook ads and things like that. And just one of the most beautiful souls ever. But Molly now she's an American living in the Netherlands. And one of her Facebook ads was her trying to catch one of the boats, offers closing, do you know what I mean? Don't miss out, do you know what I mean? I'm about to miss on my boat or something, but it was just beautifully done, right? But the thing was, it disrupted everything else. And the thing is so often I can go to sales pages and they're same. I'm I feel like I'm just either reading the same thing or the design's the same. There's nothing that and I'm not saying go crazy and go different. That's not what I'm saying, because that can actually be a detriment. But what I'm saying is you can still infuse difference and fun, do you know what I mean? To make it, do you know what I mean, you and unique. And I know, so I totally agree. It's they don't have to be same. They can be you, and again, on brand and stepping into that. I know I use my pink profile image often, but people who know me know that I love Nutella, that I'm a proud Canadian, and that pink mixed with glitter are my favorite things. So it's I too keep that same photo consistent, right? It's it's on my Facebook page, it's on my Instagram page, it's in my opt-ins. So they know that, again, they just know, and trust you a little bit more. So what is mistake number 3 that we need to avoid?
Mistake number 3 is not paying attention to the mobile design of your page. I can say that PS, you should also pay attention to the tablet and the responsiveness of your page. But if you only have the time to do one, focus on the mobile. A friend who just did a DIY sales page asked me to look at it, and she was be nice. And I took screenshots of it, and the hero section was beautiful because her branding is gorgeous. But on the phone, her arm was the whole hero section of the image. The text was all one, so it was D and then E and then S.
No.
They were all vertically displayed. So again, this was before her customers saw it, but mobile usage, like here's a stat I share, is up, 222% in the last 7 years. It's probably more than that by now. And I even had an inquiry from someone earlier this year who had invested in a really well-known designer to do their sales page. But when the page was being developed, there's, and I think it's also important to know that some designers develop, some designers design and develop, some people either develop and some people design. Like whatever you do, if you're a designer, it's fine. There's no shame in not developing, because I also don't develop, but I'm also very involved in the development process. So depending on how my clients are going to be developing their sales pages, they're getting a custom PSC for the tablet layout. They're getting a custom PSC for the mobile layout, because that saves the developer time, and they know how many pixels, the height the button should be. They know how many pixels of space should be between each section. And so I met with someone who literally, they were like, I want to see the mobile design of your pages because people are not paying attention to that. And I was like, you just spent, thousands of dollars on this design that you can't use because no one, you've got 80% of your audience that is on mobile and they can't see it.
Yep.
So there's a lot of frustration there. So not paying attention to the mobile and making the time within the project process to look at the mobile and the tablet and even just like edit your copy,
And I know so often that's one of the things I do with my own clients is I'll say, Ange, can you look at this? And then it's my 3-point checklist is what I say. And even though, again, I'm not developing it and things like that, but I'm like, this looks great. Have you checked it on mobile? Oh, no, because, again, exactly right. It looks like shit. Do you know what I mean? And they're like, and it's like, and, especially if they're trying to do this themselves, right? Where it's like they've either trying to put something together on Kajabi and they just don't know those steps. But I cannot agree enough with you there is that people are on their mobiles pretty much all day unless they're sleeping. And I would even argue that people are sleeping with their shit. Do you know what I mean? So it's like that stuff is attached to people. So it's like, again, it's not about what we think. It's about how are we meeting the buyer where they're at. And those buyers are typically, do you know what I mean, on their phones. Even first, they may then go to desktop to purchase, but they're starting out at some stage looking at that via their phone.
Yeah, for sure.
So hopefully that for those of you that are out there, that you're really thinking about some of these things and these mistakes that Melissa has been talking about and how to avoid them on your own sales page. Now, Melissa, I'm curious to know is when should people outsource their design? Because I know when I first started, I was very much like wherever I could afford, I'm just like, take my money and outsource because I would rather get it done correctly from the beginning than try and go, oh, is this piece wrong or is this piece wrong? I'm like, just fix that shit as soon as we can. Now that's my mentality. I also use my credit card a lot to get started, right? But that's what I chose to do. Now, not everyone is in that position. So for those though who are out there, like you're saying, like, what is the best practice? Like when should people outsource their design to someone else to make sure that, again, everything is conversional and firing off the way it needs to?
Yeah. And it's a really tricky question because I think for everyone, it's going to be different. So what I like to do when I have a creative project, which we all have creative projects in our business, is I like to look at like, okay, what are the different roles that need to be filled? So let's say you're going to have a website. You're going to have a copywriter. You're going to have an email strategist. Someone's going to have to connect your ConvertKit with your HTML. Someone's going to have to test all of that. Someone's going to have to develop. Someone's going to have to develop your brand strategy, your brand design elements. They're going to have to design all the pages. You'll have a photographer. So within there, I probably just mean like 5 or 6 roles. Which ones? And then there's like a project manager and like your team has to review it. So like these are all the roles within your creative project. Which ones can you fill yourself that are a good use of your time? And will you make more money working with clients? Will you be more profitable if you're doing the design yourself? Or will it be better for you to outsource? And do you have the funds to outsource? Or do you have a wait list of 100 people where 50% of them are going to convert because that's how your business has historically worked? So then maybe it's not a good idea. So like at the end of the day, like outsourcing can, with someone who is, an expert and has actually got experience, can be a very good thing for you. But also people have outsourced and they, are working with designers who aren't good. So I would say if you're going to outsource your sales page, I would ask to see samples of their work. I would ask if they have results and like if they know like, okay, what was the conversion rate of the page? And honestly, I'm not someone who knows a lot of the conversion rates of my clients' pages because they have tech teams who will then take my done for you service in-house and kind of duplicate the page and do the things they need to with split testing and everything there. But do they understand the difference between graphic design and the difference between branding design and the difference between a sales page design. That would be the first thing. And then I think it's really,
No, go ahead. No, keep going. Sorry.
I was just going to say the next thing is to kind of look at, okay, what is the cost and what is the timeline? And is this person available within your timeline? 9 times out of 10, if we're not planning or we don't have someone planning on our behalf, it's too late. People are already booked out. So make sure that you can find someone who can get the page done and will produce something that you're allowed to give feedback on and have an opinion about, and that will actually look good on mobile. You know what I mean? And I think it's really just kind of weighing, the ROI on what it's going to be. My clients can, sell one spot inside their course, or maybe 2 to 3 spots because I'm a little bit more expensive now than when I first started, and get their money back right away. Yeah. And then use this. And then I did a sales page for someone who started a membership site in 2017. And within 2 months, he was making, he was booked like $500,000. He came back to me earlier this year, and I just rebuilt that sales page for him.
Yeah. And that's a good question too, is that once you get, it's kind of like a good website build. I have this conversation with a lot of my clients where I'm like, you're part of the foundational element, as far as I'm concerned, is to have a conversional website right from the beginning. And I won't get into what all those details are, but I'm like, because if you build a robust website from the beginning, it will see you through over and over and over again. So where you might have to, like the word, like skin it. Do you know what I mean? They might have to skin it up with updating their brand or whatever, but the structure is there, right? It's robust. It can keep firing on, right? And I know personally with sales pages is if you have them built correctly, and when I say correctly, I'm talking about copy and the design, right? Is that can go for years before you need touch-ups.
Yeah.
Literally, and so it's like, yes, you're out of it. Yeah. Yes, you're out of pocket at the beginning, but you're not if you do it right, you don't have to keep getting a new sales page every time you launch.
Yeah. I had a client, actually, we did our sales page in 2016, and she did around 300,000 with that sales page. And then since then, she's rebranded her company name. She has, come up with different offers. And I didn't do the rebrand because I don't really do a lot of brand design unless it's for a very special client that I have a good relationship with. But then, she had this really clean brand with it was white with black text and, studio photography. She went back to the whimsical design that matched her branding at the time. And that page converted way better for her than the new one she had to find by the new company. So I think it's really key to just kind of see what works. But yeah, I had a client sell her $50,000 mastermind from my sales page for 3 or 4 years.
Yeah. So yes, it doesn't. And my question is what is the average percentage that page should be converting at?
That question too is one that I will say the average conversion rate is 1 to 3%. And I don't even know where those stats come from. But what I think is more important to listen to than the number I just gave you is what your sales page converted at during your last launch. Mm-hmm. So let's say you have, 2,000 people on your email list or 20,000 people on your email list, and you have a segment of people, let's say there's 1,000 people in your segment. Okay, well, 100 people click on your sales page and you get 5 sales. Well, then that to me would be a 5% conversion rate, because you had 100 people who clicked and then 5 of them bought. Yeah. 5% is actually a really good conversion rate. I've had people who have converted way higher than that, but they have a really big audience. So you have to consider where you're stopping at. I remember I got frustrated with my very first launch because I ended up making $4,000, and I was like, I should be making way more than this. But I was like, honey, you have an email list of 0 people. I think I had 100 by the time I was done. Be happy with that $4,000. People convert it. You know what I mean? Yes.
And again, and I think too many people think that their first launch is going to be their biggest launch. Typically, it isn't, people. You know what I mean? It doesn't mean you failed. It just means that we've got room for improvement for the next round.
No. And I think that what's important too is to celebrate the progress you've had, and offer that converts. And that's the thing with me. I would say of the maybe 20 launches I've done in the last 4 years, that is a lot now that I say that out loud, but I've probably had 17 of them where someone's converted, and maybe 3 of them where I didn't get any sales. Yeah. And to me, I honestly can say, just being transparent, that I wasn't living in the amount of gratitude that I should have been in, knowing that people invested in me,
Right. Yeah. 100%. But again, these are the things that we learn, right? We get older, we get smarter, we're in the journey longer. Now, for what tips can you give people wanting to jumpstart their sales page today? Is there anything that you're kind of like, you do this, and you'll be ahead of the game?
Yeah. I would say get my copy outline. If you don't have a good copy outline, and I can give you the link to that to put in show notes.
Yep.
So spend some time on your copy, spend some time learning the foundational elements of conversion design. And then to keep it really simple, find a template that's for sale by someone you know who does sales pages, or use a drag and drop builder like Lead Pages, because Lead Pages has several pages, or find someone who you know can, just get in there and get their hands dirty and get it done. Or take a look at your existing sales page and, show it to your friend, who your childhood best friend who you used to play Barbies with, or you used to play G.I. Joes with, or whatever you played with when you were a kid, and see if they understand what it is that you do. If they don't understand it, then you need to, maybe hire a copywriter, or, give another go around. I always write all my own copy, but for my sales pages, I will bring someone in to kind of just like polish up my sales pages.
Yeah. Yep. No, fantastic.
So I think that, make sure it's clear, make sure the design is clean. If it's messy, if it's, if you have no consistent spacing, and again, I'm very anal about that kind of stuff. So just, don't make it like a hard thing. Just remember to be nice to yourself and just do one thing at a time, and outsource it if you need help. Send me a message if you need me to look at it, or I can refer you to a designer who can help you.
Well, thank you so much. This has been a super informative and important, because there's so many listeners of mine out there that are about to launch, or they're thinking of launching, for 2021. And again, I'm all about just get in there, guys, do it right. Conversional copy, conversional, sales design equals all levels of awesomeness. But before we sign off, where can my listeners connect with you?
Yeah, so you can connect with me at my website, which is just melissaburkheimer.com. I spend most of my time over on Instagram, and my name there is just Melissa Burkheimer. And I also have a podcast all about design, where I talk about sales pages, and I interview designers and people who are involved on creative campaigns. And it's called The Design Business Show. And you can listen at thedesignbusinessshow.com.
Dude, fantastic. And I do have one last question for you. What do you know now that you wish you knew when you first started out in business?
Oh, that you're just getting started and things. You have so much potential. Quit playing small.
Yep, dude, love it. And before we sign off, again, after this amazing episode with Melissa, I'd just like to remind you that my team and I will be putting together the show notes for this episode, and Melissa's link that she talked about, I'll also make sure that is included in there, and all her other links where you guys can connect with her. Thanks again for being on the show today, Melissa. I really, really appreciate your time, and just appreciate you as an amazing human. And for the rest of you guys, have a fabulous day, no matter where you are in the world. And don't forget that applications for my 12-month Action Takers Mastermind are open. So you can head to angelahenderson.com.au and click on Mastermind to apply today. And for the rest of you, have a fantastic week. And I look forward to you joining me again next week for another amazing episode of the Business and Life Conversations podcast. Thanks again, Melissa.
Thank you, Angela.
Thanks for listening to the Business and Life Conversations podcast with Angela Henderson. www.angelahenderson.com.au